Crooked Hillary will be sick when she sees what Ben Sasse just exposed on the Senate floor by US4Trump.com. On Capitol Hill, Christopher Wray, FBI Director, and Michael Horowitz, Inspector General, were in the hallowed halls of the U.S. Senate. They were openly answering questions about the Hillary Clinton email scandal that the senators were asking of the pair. Nebraska's Republican Senator Ben Sasse was on the Senate floor, and he asked all the right questions of Horowitz and Wray. Specifically, what Sasse asked brought to light what the corrupt attorneys did for Hillary during her email scandal, and it was possibly criminal. The exchange begins with Sasse asking Mr. Horowitz, "Can you remind us of who Heather Samuelson and Cheryl Mills are?" Horowitz replied, "Ms. Mills was a counselor for the State Department during Hillary Clinton's tenure, and Ms. Samuelson was also in the front office." Then Ben asked the Inspector General, "Why do they show up in your report?" And Horowitz replied, "Well, for several reasons." He states, he continues, "On the one hand, after they left the State Department, they culled through Hillary Clinton's emails to decide which ones they concluded were work-related and which ones weren't. And the ones they concluded were work-related were ultimately forwarded to the State Department. So they were involved in that process. In addition, they appear, as we describe here, as Secretary Clinton's interview on July 2nd, representing her as her lawyer." Sasse asked if there was criminal behavior, and Horowitz intimates that they were ultimately involved in the instruction of the destruction of what they concluded were not work-related emails. Sasse asked Director Wray if there was ever another investigation where people were potentially involved in the destruction of criminal evidence and would be allowed to accompany a supposed subject of an investigation but not named target subject in the investigation. An example? Anywhere like that? Wray answers with a grin on its face. "It's hard for me to come up with one." So Hillary Clinton's lawyers deleted whatever emails they wanted. How convenient.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you both for being here. Mr. Horowitz, can you remind us who Cheryl Mills and Heather Samuelson are?
Ms. Mills was a counselor at the State Department during Secretary Clinton's tenure, and Ms. Samuelson was also in her front office.
And why do they show up in your report?
Well, for several reasons. On the one hand, after they left the State Department and Secretary Clinton left the State Department, they culled through Secretary Clinton's emails to decide which ones they concluded were work-related and which ones weren't. And the ones they concluded were work-related were ultimately forwarded to the State Department, so they were involved in that process. In addition, they appear, as we describe here, at Secretary Clinton's interview on July 2nd, representing her as her lawyer.
So they have professional relationships in the government, professional relationships outside the government, compensated as lawyers, personal relationships, and political relationships. And they're allowed to accompany Secretary Clinton to her interview. How can that be?
Well, we describe in here what the rationale was that was given to us. As we lay out here, we think it was inconsistent with normal investigative procedure, and we're concerned about it.
Were they ultimately involved in expunging evidence and information that was criminal?
They were ultimately involved in instructing individuals to remove, destroy what they had concluded were non-work related emails. I'll leave it to others to decide what that meant as a legal matter.
So were they ever a target of investigation themselves, Ms. Mills or Ms. Samuelson?
From our review here, what we were told was that the only individual considered for potential charging a potential charging decision with Secretary Clinton. As we noted here, actually nobody was listed as a subject of this investigation at any point in time.
Can you think of any other investigation that has no subject of the investigation?
I think you probably could have a circumstance. I'd leave it to Director Ray, although in this case where it was a focus of some idea of who was the individual or individuals that were involved in the events, that would be surprising, but again, I would defer to the director.
Director Ray, can you give me an example of any investigation like this, where people who are potentially involved in the destruction of criminal evidence would be allowed to accompany a supposed subject of an investigation but not named target subject of an investigation? Any example anywhere like that?
It's hard for me to come up with one.
And there you have it. She gets off scot-free, decides which emails someone can see. Isn't that precious? Let me know what you guys think in the comments below. And again, thank you so much for watching.